Welcome, everybody. It's Collette from the Sacred Rose Temple, and I'm here today welcoming you to this new podcast called Women as the Living Myth. This is going to be a series where we look beneath the biography of women into the deeper archetypal story that they hold. And in these conversations, we will explore story, symbol, thresholds, feminine archetypes, and the powerful medicine that women's lives hold. I think that women don't often to tell their story as a myth. And then when they do, we begin to realize just how magical women's lives are. So today, I'm really honored to say hello to my special guest, dear friend and sister, I might add, Shereen Öberg. And she is a Swedish spiritual teacher, an author, a podcaster, a yoga and meditation teacher, and a Reiki practitioner. I would say she's definitely a healer and a creator of the philosophy and the platform known as the Law of Positivism. And many of you may have those oracle cards. I know I do. She is a Kurdish heritage. She has Kurdish heritage, which is beautiful. I really connect to her on this level. And she has spent many years studying a blend of Eastern and Western healing traditions, yoga, meditation, traditional Chinese medicine, spirituality, women's health, and personal development. So she is an all-rounder, and it's with great pleasure that I introduce you, Shereen, to the audience. So lovely to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Collette. I really am excited to connect today and to talk to you. And just love all your work that you do. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, we had a real good bond I think when we meet some people, we really feel a resonance. And I think the resonance is in the myth of our story. We have found as we've known each other that our myth, our story really has collided. They're so different, but yet so many similar themes. And I think that's what I want to pull out of these podcasts is that we look at women's lives and we think, wow, they're so beautiful, they're so special, they've got all this magic around them. And we fail to look at our own magic or our own suffering or our own gifts. So hopefully that's what we're going to do today. So the first question I'm going to ask you is that I think that every woman is carrying a myth. So when you look at your own life, what story do you feel that you've been living?
Such a beautiful question. Well, there's so much. I would say a very important one is the one that we've been reflecting on together, is the one of being in an ancestry that is so connected back to a time and space and a place that holds so much magic, and like all indigenous cultures, but having that indigenous culture and then throughout the times of history of patriarchy, how it became nation states and going from clans and villages to becoming like part of empires and all of this, and to have that ancestry and being first generation immigrant of Kurdish descent in Sweden, I think that's like a red thread throughout life, which has I'm like standing on my ancestors, like with them behind me, the foremothers and forefathers that are truly like so active within me because of their stories and who have fueled me. So I would say that I've always been very interested in learning and growing and being high achieving, very like like that, and still like live that. So with that, having that very strong direction all the time, that's something that's been throughout my whole life since I was a child.
And you talk about that part of your story with the ancestors. When did you really feel that the ancestors were super important to you? When did that magic of them and your heritage and your lineage, when did that come alive in you?
Do you know when I was in my early 20s, I really connected. It was confusing to have like living in the and Apilo Colorado has been someone who's like really brought that forth in me to understand it. But living like in these two different worlds at the same time and having the language and music and all of this, it's always been there, but it's been more like very like feeling the sadness of not understanding really maybe in my 20s because we didn't have these types of platforms and connections with other. I didn't have that which we have now, which are very like big communities on Instagram and Facebook and joining in together. And but I feel like that work really amplified a couple of years ago, and especially when working on the oracle cards to bring forth. And I would say that the strongest like initiation was when my grandmother passed away 3 years ago here in Sweden, but we went back to Kurdistan to get her buried there. And from that time, I feel like she's been like so strongly within me even more because we were very close. She was as a second mother or like a great mother, like we say in Kurdish. So um, maybe that really sparked something very strongly for me to hold that lineage because when she was like that matriarch of our family with birthed 11 children and 21 grandchildren and I don't know how many grandchildren. So I feel like that was a big initiation for me. A grief,
It,
but initiation. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it. I think that that part of our ancestry that becomes part of our myth is so overlooked in society. I know we speak about this a lot, that the world seems so at war with each other's ancestry and beliefs and traditions that it's deeply, I feel emotional even talking about it. Whereas I know I love watching you celebrate your ancestry and you support me with mine, and this is a bond that we did over social media because I'm all for your Kurdistan women and you're all for my Celtic lineage, and you've got ties in with the Celtic, and I felt a deep remembrance of your ancestry somewhere in a life somewhere for me. And I think the crossing of our myths here is really important, is that we're women that hold our ancestry, and it's very different, but we're in deep honoring of it. So I know that you hold that, and that comes across your platforms, is how much you honor your ancestry and how you support other women in theirs. So what would you say to women that hadn't really gone into the depths of their ancestry as part of who they are in the story of their life?
Mm. I think that at least for me, it was if I wouldn't have unlocked that and truly dived into that, and especially because I'm not in my ancestral lands, and but still being very conscious all the time, like in everything that I do, I honor it and I reflect on it and I feel it. So if we're suppressing any part of us and that DNA remembrance of those lands, and I mean the world is so multicultural and many people have like a mix of so many ancestries, but it's I think that if when we do feel the calling to tap into it, we can unlock, especially if we want to be on a path of aligning our soul with this embodiment and understanding. I mean, I just reflected on this the other day. Like, imagine like a couple of generations ago when they were dreaming forward our lives. Like, how were they thinking like of their heritage and what would come through them and their children? And we're disconnected, but not really. So I feel like it's such a power to understand it. And I mean, for my own and our own people's, for example, here in Sweden, you can trace your ancestry and know the stories and names and maybe some images. We don't have that. So for us, it's maybe one or two generations back, and then we don't have any records really. And you know, so it's all about that inner journey and honoring the stories that we do have, that we've taken from our grandparents. And I don't have any grandparents alive anymore. My grandmother was on my maternal side, was the last one. So one of the things that I wish I would have even done even more, I know I started to tap into it, but like having even more, because it was you know, elderly, when we get older, we tend to tell even more stories. It's like part of our the way we live, and those stories are really important. And we will also do that, like more and more, and taking those really, like writing them down, recording them. It's so easy now to do that. So that's also something that I want to do with like a dream that I have, to collect the stories. I have so many like my the stories of my aunts, and you know that we can still preserve so much of the memories, because we're not in the place where they grew up, and we don't know how it was really.
How beautiful. Like the storyteller archetype is like screaming out at me right now, that part of the lineage, mine too, actually, my Romany lineage and the Irish lineage and the Druid lineage, the oracy of story was super important to my family. And that's why I decided to do the same, is to retell myth and to retell the story of my ancestors. So that's super important, that storyteller archetype in you. So are we going to get blessed with some of these stories at some point, Shereen?
Yeah, of course. And I mean, I'm really trying to, there's so many stories that I can remember, but then I know that there's also stories that are have not been revealed yet. And so it's really about writing them down, and asking the questions to parents, to their siblings, like those that are still here to retell them. I really feel like that's gonna be like a part of my, so I can feel like something more has been preserved, because that's also the thing when we're not connected to our ancestral lands. It feels like a part of us is not, at least for me, like I'm missing a part. And it's so beautiful to connect to, again, I feel like the language is key, the stories, the elements. I mean, the mountains, for me, that's like, that's actually something that I'm longing for. We have quite flat land here in this part of Sweden.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm really longing when we're speaking about like also the nature and environment that I want to be in. Like I'm really missing that mountainous areas. I feel it in me.
Yeah, your somatic body recalls and remembers. I mean, I found out not many years ago that I had Egyptian heritage, and I'd done Egyptian womb wisdom studies for years. I kept going to Egypt. There's just something that the body knows greater than your intellect, isn't it? That it feels and it wants to be around where your blood and bones and ancestry comes from. I think we both talked about these experiences that are quite magic. But if you could say on your mythical journey that the ancestry has been really important to you, what magic do you feel it's sprinkled into your life, really being deeply back in touch with the blood and bones of your ancestry?
I feel like the connection to, so something that is within our ancestry, and it is that deep spirituality. It's within the language, within what we, even if we grow up here, we grow up with that spirituality, and the trust in higher wisdom. It's because our regions, it's not as well, it's getting modernized, but it's still infused in our culture. That's the difference. And because maybe we don't have that, there's a completely different history in Europe when it comes to religion and spirituality over 1,000 years or so. So it's so different, I think. So I think that especially when working with the cards and the symbols that we have and the nature elements, I lost the question, but
So the magic from the ancestry
yeah,
that
the
has been
magic.
sprinkled, yeah. So
I just find such great power in knowing that I come from like these matriarchs that were also so deeply like in, I just thinking about my grandmother on my mother's side, because I didn't meet my grandparents from my dad's side before they passed, but the way she looked at life and death and God and everything, it's why I'm doing the work I'm doing. If I wouldn't have this lineage, it wasn't something that I made up. It's been with me my whole life, and the way we speak to each other about each other, how we like always have that divine in mind when we're doing something. So that's the contrast also of living in a secular country like Sweden,
yeah.
that I feel like it's just part of everything that we do, and that comes from my ancestry and such old civilization and people that have been rooted and had these rituals and ceremonies and communion like all people have once before maybe it became too patriarchal and empire led and nation state based and institutionalized, and but it's been preserved because it's been like that until
Yeah,
recently.
yeah.
That's the maybe the biggest I mean it's still so connected to Mother Earth, the way of living. And yeah, I think that's the magic that is like coming through.
Yeah, I mean, I find when I speak to women who are in touch with their ancestry that those elements all kind of seem to interweb together, like mine, the Celtic Druids, the land-based worship, how nature's so important, the medicine that comes through death, life. They're all in those stories that we were told by our grandparents. So
Mm.
I think that, when I hear you and I communicate with you, I really feel this thread of that ancestry and how it does place a spiritual magic in our lives, and beyond the differences of ceremonies and rituals and beliefs, that we're the same underneath. We're the spiritual soul trying to express itself through these practices. I know that you have the Law of Positivism account that has an amazing array of interviews, and you have so many wonderful women on there. You've wrote a book, you've published oracle cards, and you also have, I love your account, The Kurdish Mystic, because it really feels like that magic that's coming through from your ancestors. So when people see these faces of you, like they do with me in my work, they see us from the outside, but there's a real woman, and I know that real woman. I have the privilege of knowing that real woman. There's a real woman behind that, living a life. What would you feel that from what they see on the outside, they might misunderstand about you or not really know about you, who you are as Shereen?
Mm. I feel like so yeah, this is a comment I get a lot from people that I meet. I recently heard it 2 days ago. I feel so calm when I'm around you or when I'm talking to you, and it can be like a short conversation, and then so I maybe I'm beaming that, but I'm also a very So I have that fire element of Leo, so I can have the temperament. I have very much the Cancerian up and down. My sun is in Cancer, like the emotional, like deep, and definitely not always calm and collected and feeling. I'm very attuned with my cycles, so I'm really, each phase of them, I'm really feeling it. So it's never like, oh, I'm meditating and peaceful and calm all the time. But I have found my tools to always ground back. Like for me, being in nature, it's not just something I do and then no, it's that's like when I'm going into the forest every day, that's the true medicine for me because of my. So in Chinese medicine, I have that very strong, or it's actually more of an imbalance of the wood element of like having doing too much, having too many demands to, I want to achieve so much. I've always like worked full time and studied full time at the same time, like doing a lot and always overachieving for my own sake. I'm doing it for my own. So those teachings that I share, I really, they remind me that, and all the work that I do is a balancing of that, I feel like, because otherwise I would just go on and on. So that fiery energy, having a lot of the air as well, it really makes me. And then that I'm never like this really grounded person. I don't know if that also comes from my ancestry of being in movement, like having, like I told you, like I like to have my space. I love to be in my home, all of that, but also wanting to experience new things. I've moved a lot in my life, like my whole life. That's a constant. I never feel like, oh, I want to be here forever. So maybe you're the same. So, and really having that thirst of like when I feel something, I just do it. And it can be sometimes impulsive. When I really feel like now it's time. Now I'm gonna move, or now I'm gonna change. I've also changed my line of work a lot. So yeah, very changing and not very grounded as so yeah. But I have my moon in Taurus, so some earth energy is there at least.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel all those elements about you. And again, all the archetypes, the gypsy, the movement practitioner, they're all there in you. And I think that's what sometimes we don't see when we've got a persona on social media, that we can come across as very flat, like positivism, mystic. But I know you, I know you've got many archetypes, like lots of women, you're multifaceted. There's so many different elements that you're holding and working with. And let's go back to that Kurdish mystic, because she's a great warrior, right? And you are very calming, but I know that part of you that is the warrior. You have a big, strong warrior presence that comes through that ancestry. Do you want to tell us a little about the warrior in you and the things that she's had to go through, any sacrificing, suffering, where she's really had to find her strength? Tell us a little bit about her.
Yeah. So definitely this archetype is strong when it comes to, as the work that you've also supported me in so much in, like human rights and indigenous rights and having the right support and healthcare system, like all of these things. I'm very much analyzing everything, how the structures are. I studied, I have a master's in religion. I studied like the history of religion and how, so I see society in a very certain way. And I think that it's, I felt like I could be a politician, but I don't want to do it. So I can definitely debate, and I can, because of that, Mercury in Gemini, I have the speech and sometimes too much. So that's also when I'm interviewing, I'm like listening. But when you meet me, you also know that I have that very, like, that's probably my tool, or my biggest strength is the speech, because I feel like I could probably, I can be very persuasive. So that's the thing, but I'm not made to be in sales or something. It's to make for a greater cause. So when it comes to, of course, connecting with women's rights, I know when we started connecting, I was doing my internship at UN Women, and all of these bigger questions. And I have my North Node in Pisces as well. The humanitarian aspects are really important. And that's come through the initiation into my ancestry, that if I have the tools, I need to uh, use my voice and use my platform to be able to highlight the issues that we have in society and in. So the law of positivism was not grown out of like, yeah, think positive mentality. It was that everything that we were bombarded with was so, the classical news back then, and everything that we were like being brainwashed with, it felt disempowering. So having that, you are powerful, you can do it, like supporting that notion that most of us didn't like grow up in society understanding and knowing our true power and essence and soul. I think all of that. So the advocacy work, and that's when my warrior comes in strongest, I think. And I'm very opinionative, and I'm not filtered. Like I can be in any context and say exactly what what I think. So I'm not that conformative woman, and I don't think like I could fit into any normative. I can, but I think with age, then I don't like filter myself as much as before.
I can totally concur with everything you're saying right now. And has that ever got you in trouble? Has that ever put you in difficult situations? How do you feel that's impacting you, having that warrior, that outspoken, that where has that made life difficult for you?
Um, I think that it hasn't made, I mean, it can be tough when it comes to like expectations from not my closest family, but like related or people who, especially in this society that I live in, where it's not expressive, and I'm Middle Eastern, very expressive and out there with my with what I think, and I think that sometimes because I'm when something doesn't feel right, I say it, previously at least, it's been like with co-workers that have certain expectations on you, and or when it's felt I've been in the corporate world for so many years as well, like being experienced like this patriarchal very yeah, it's getting better, I think, and I live in a society where it's supposed to be equal, but you still feel that sexist things, comments, and things like that. So, but I don't feel like I've gotten into trouble with it or like that. It's just that being a little bit misunderstood, because when you are strong in your voice as a woman, you can become like this person that is tough or too tough or not approachable, or I don't know. And I feel like I've changed so much over the years, but I think that when I'm, uh, I think it also comes from like being very shy and timid to becoming like in my lion ascendant, because that wasn't me when I was younger. I was very shy and timid and quiet.
It's a growth, isn't it? It is a growth, to feel like I'm very opinionated, also
Mm.
very outspoken about world I find that can be challenging if I'm saying, well, what about the women in Iran? And what about that? I'm very world focused. I'm less just central focused on me and my people. I kind of have this outrage of how women are treated all over the world. And we share that together. We really know that our sisters all over the world are suffering, and it bothers us. And I think what women fear is that if they become outspoken and they share the passions and all of that, that it gets them into trouble. Or what I found is it just kind of moves away from me, the smaller noise, the people that don't really align with my bigger vision and my bigger heart and all of those things. So I think it's really good for women to hear that you can be strong warrior, fight in a corner, and it not really getting you in any trouble at all. It's just like an undercurrent of noise. Maybe people don't like it. But, I think in mythology, we do have a plethora of women that are seen as really outspoken and really against the regime and really against the system, and trying to be advocates for everybody, for women in general, for the world in general. And I really feel that is something that makes me align with you and what you do, is because the law of positivism, as you say, isn't just about positivism. Behind that wall, there is all of this that you advocate for, all of what you fight for. But I think I want to turn the word fight, and what I feel about you is that you're able to have that feminine war, because I think the word war with feminine is very different. It's more about peace, because that's what truly you're fighting for, right?
That's definitely, and just with the ancestral part as well, like knowing that those that came before me really had to fight, and I mean it's still ongoing, but fight for like basic human rights like language and being able to practice your culture, and seeing it from a different perspective, from that holistic perspective of thousands of years of what's been like in this age that we're in. The I feel like if we're so sometimes it can be we're come into that spiritual path. It can be anything from yoga, meditation, going in deeper. When you dig deeper and deeper and deeper, you come to that space where it's like different thresholds, and I think it connects a lot with our ancestry, like those initiations. And when you see injustice, it's part of our spiritual journey to create the change, and not doing the spiritual journey to be like a self-improvement thing only, and like it's only me in this little island. It's like whatever you do, being in devotion and service to the bigger, it becomes so much more than your own. It also becomes more motivating to do the work, and knowing that you can make a change or you're doing something that. So that was always my mission from the beginning, to like improve something or to help others, and I'm still doing. That's what brings me most joy. It's not about, it's not, even the law of positivism has never been about me. I even didn't have my name or picture or anything for many years. So it's nothing about me at all.
Yeah. And what do you think was your biggest threshold initiation? This is super important for myth, and many women don't really give themselves that kind of honoring that they have gone and passed through a really big initiation and threshold. What was that for you?
I think there's been so many different initiations, but life has brought me into different challenges and different experiences. I would say a big threshold for me when I look at this story is the one where I had to realize that I can't like control anything in life. I can't reach any type of perfectionism because it's not the point. And also that overachieving aspect of myself, like why was I doing that, and what was my, like how, it's something more about how to mother myself and to become softer in my feminine. And I think that it's been like a journey over the 10 year these 10 past years to move into that, and different initiations and different griefs and different and I think that so much changed for me as well when my grandmother passed away. I think that really, because it was kind of like this, yeah, this matriarch that was like keeping everything together, and it was such a big loss that initiated other things as well, but that was made it so apparent that it is important that I'm connecting to my ancestry and to being the voice, which she also was. So I think that's, and there's much more, but I think that's what's like over the overall. And then within that, there's so many experiences, but it really led me into that mother archetype, and the I wonder if it was before that I was connected. That's how we connected as well with the Black Madonna, and that aspect of the divine feminine, which yeah,
you kind of got asked to step up and in. I think the passing of a grandmother, especially when you've got a bond and it's an ancestral, deep ancestral bond, that when they go, there's a place you've got to put your bigger boots on and step into a role that it's so big, that role, isn't it? And you've got to step in and own your part of it. I wonder, you've talked about so many archetypes. I'm sure the viewers have got this like little piece of paper that I've asked them to fill in as they go through the interview to mark what archetypes they are hearing when you people speak. And so all these are popping out for me as you're speaking. But I did give you an interviewer handout which asks you which was the archetype that you would choose out of that list, or one that you think is really super important to you. If you could think of one archetype, and I know this is a horrible question because I too have so many archetypes, and like pick one, but pick one, just pick one. Which archetype do you think really is you? If you could just say one now. Sorry.
I think the up until now probably a little bit of the warrior and priestess archetype, since I'm such in deep devotion. The devotional work has been important for me. That's actually my spiritual practice, and chanting mantras, and the rituals and being connected. I think that, so there's like two parts of me. It's like the leadership. I don't know if the leader was like if he's like a little bit of the warrior, that strong aspect, because I am very much that. And then also that devotional, and if there's something I talk about, it is God, goddess, and living in that throughout my day and throughout my life. So I don't know, can I pick two?
Oh, she can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so impossible. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that when I'm in one archetype, the other one kind of like rests. And then when I'm in the other, so you can't really know, if you only see one part of me, that other part. You don't really pick up on that if you don't get to know me, and like, yeah, have more deeper conversations.
So we're going for the warrior, and then we're going to go for I mean, I think I'm like you with the priestess. The priestess kind of entails my devotion and my honoring of the feminine. That's why I like using the priestess, because I think it's quite multifunctional, isn't it? It's got a lot in there. So what did you say? The warrior and the
priestess. I think because also the priestess is a leader, but also someone who is in service. I feel like it's like that. Um, it's almost like that one wants to be more, but I had in life had to step into the warrior and still have, but I'm longing to come back because it's like a flow. It's like a yin and yang, those two probably, because they're very alike, but also within each other, but two different streams. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it's really important that we do this, that we know what archetypes are present for us. Maybe there's another archetype coming in and we're trying to fit that. We're trying to be more of that. It's kind of like we're being initiated into it. But I think it's really important for us as women to kind of understand the archetypes we hold and what they ask of us, and the ones that are less developed, that are beginning to merge in the psyche. What's that asking me to do? How do I step up more into, say, the role of the mother, or into the role of the mystic, if that's what you want to do and you're beginning to set out in that? So naming this is really important. I want to round up with two things. Number one, if you could pick a symbol that would symbolize, we have all these goddesses, and we know that like Venus is the lover archetype, and the symbol is the golden apple because she was picked by the golden apple. If you were to choose your archetype, what symbol would you bring through from the collective unconscious right now and say, this is the symbol that I'm currently carrying?
I think that the one that came up directly is the rose, actually, not because you have the roses there, but it is the rose because it goes back all the way back to, so in my priestess path, it was working with Ishtar, goddess Ishtar or Inanna. And that was my initiation into doing this work. Yeah. So that's the strongest, I feel like.
I'll take that. I'll take that. Now we know why we love each other. We're so connected, because these symbols do like cross time, space, words, lives. They hook us back up with our soul lineage. I think the symbols, they speak more than words. So what a beautiful image for you to give us. And then the final thing is, if you could give any piece of advice to women, what would it be? Like your little motto, or just a little bit of medicine? What would you like to share? And I know this will change for us over life, but right now, at the current place you are in life, if you could just give out some medicine, a spoonful, what would it be?
I think that it would be to truly trust that there is a divine plan and everything is interconnected, and we're never separate from any aspects of ourselves or others or the divine. So just having that trust.
Trust, big one, big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, a really big one. I'm really, really grateful for you sharing. I think there's so much wisdom in what you've shared, and I'm sure there's women that are going to be feeling, wow, this ancestral piece is really important. Maybe I haven't got into it deep enough. Maybe what Shereen shared with you all has kind of spiked up some magic within yourself, and that was the objective really of the interview. And I really am grateful for you and all that you do, Shereen, and hold for other women and promote other women. I know you're really into promoting women's medicine and women's causes, and I hope I can support you as much as you support anybody else. But how can people find out more about you and the wonderful work that we've been speaking about?
Thank you so much, and thank you for the work that you're doing and all that you have been creating for women. And I really honor you on your path. You can find me the Law of Positivism or Law of Positivism on any platform. It's on YouTube, the podcast, on Instagram. It's the same name, and the website as well. So that's how you can easily.
And the Kurdish Mystic is on Instagram, and it's, you do a lot of the women's plights, and that's really worth checking out, and how they can support you in some of the things that you share and do there.
Yeah, thank you so much. Exactly. And there will be so I'm co-creating something with another sister that I've been working with a lot to also support women who are creators and who have this passion to be in service and to create things for others, but that are maybe doing it by themselves. And I'm like that, that I like to co-create. So we're doing this light village offering very soon. So if anyone is interested in that, that will also be up, I think, in a couple of days on the website to have
Great.
that.
So I'll make sure that I put all the links under this interview so that you can be directed straight to those causes and to Shereen's platforms. But I just want to say a huge thank you, Shereen, for being my guest on this interview. This will be the first one to launch. So thank you for blessing the series and much love to you.
So much love, and thank you so much for having me again. So grateful.